you want me to come with you?
I'm okay, thanks.
Okay, so I want to say something to everybody who participated in the jam, and especially the 20 finalists that I got to listen to, but I also lurked a little bit on the jam page and got to sample some other soundtracks as well. So I just want to say huge congratulations to everyone for pulling this off. To me, I mean, the level of quality, especially in the 20 soundtracks that I got to listen to, was mind-blowing. I would say that the quality ranged from music with amazing potential that needs just a little bit of work to professionally made, ready to be published, ready to be used in soundtracks music. So top-notch stuff. But besides that, even to everybody else, it's like I'm being a notoriously slow writer. I have no idea how you guys pull this off. That alone to me is like, wow. It's incredible. I'm really proud. I want to really thank you for sharing your work with us and for allowing us to listen to such great music. I hope to see all of you guys' music in games, and if that's something that you want to pursue, just go for it. Yeah, congratulations.
This is a voice note for entry 20. By Beepo Studios. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I loved your approach here. I loved the smoky saxophone melodies stuff. I know how difficult that can be. It can be really easy to let the reverb take control and not write something good because the texture can be so good there, but instead of doing that, you've really brought the musical material up to match that sort of texture really well, and it succeeded on both levels for me, both from a production standpoint and from a compositional standpoint, and I just thought it was really delightful. It was super interesting and unique. I didn't listen to a single other entry that felt the same as this. This felt like it stood on its own 2 feet. You might not like to hear this, or you might like to hear this, I don't know. Of course, you can't have saxophone in a game soundtrack without somebody bringing up O'Donnell's work on ODST, and this definitely sort of, I think, was reminiscent of that, but still stood on its own 2 feet, right? It still was its own thing, and it really, I think, took the best of that idea, of that texture, and really did something really cool with it. In particular, I loved the way you melded that organic saxophone and piano work with the with synths, right? Like, it gives it that almost kind of 80s feel, that almost sort of retro feel, and it just really, I consistently found myself smiling while listening to it, and that is really, really sort of a testament to your work. So I really wanted to congratulate you on your submission. It was really lovely, and I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you for that.
And finally, Evanfall, Death Come Morning by Beepo Studios. Okay, so this is a bit unfair because my two favorite soundtracks of all time is the soundtrack for Grim Fandango by Peter McConnell and the soundtrack for L.A. Noire by Andrew and Simon Hale. And if you know the soundtracks, you know that the common denominator is jazz. And for me, starting off the soundtrack and hearing this beautiful sax that I literally had to check if it was actually recorded, it's so beautifully programmed. I was like, this is my jam. I'm home. And I find that the opening piece that you have is just a brilliant main theme, you know, like booting up a game and getting this sax and this pad playing. Oh, I would so much play this game. This small album is essentially kind of like a mini trip through various different styles of jazz. I mean, the third piece is a slight exception in that it's more, I mean, it is jazzy, but it's more gamey in a sense with the arpeggiated stuff on the piano, but it's still very adventurous harmonically. And I mean, the final piece, oh my God, what's going on there? That's so beautiful. I loved it. I mean, first of all, the piano trio is perfection anyway. It's humanity's greatest achievement. But it's such a beautiful piece. The piano playing is amazing on it. And what I love about the soundtrack is that you've chosen to, the arc that you're presenting in the soundtrack is different from the story of the game, because you mention in your notes that you get to hear the final piece of the soundtrack in a bar that you go to whenever you want, essentially, in the game. So you still have chosen to add that at the end. And to me, this is very important because when you're crafting a soundtrack album, sequencing is super important. You want to build an experience for the listener. The experience doesn't need to reflect the game necessarily, because I'm not playing the game now. I'm listening to music, and I want to enjoy this as a standalone experience. And I think it's an excellent choice, leaving it for last. I mean, obviously it's very strong as a piece, and I'm sure you know that. I mean, it's undeniable. Yeah, good job on the sequencing. Good job on every of the pieces. I love how this sort of 90-ish poppy sound, almost like a lost Al Jarreau song. I felt like a alternate version of Moonlighting from a different universe would start. You know, it was like a theme for such a TV show or something. So yeah, congratulations, love it. Of all the games, I think this is the first that I would seek out and play. And yeah, I just hope I'll see your work in other games. Sinclair by Gengen Paribu. Now, okay, I love that you have essentially just created an entire soundtrack. This is like a 30-minute entry that has so many pieces. You were very careful in how economical you are with your material, and you have literally presented an entire soundtrack. What I love about this is how perfectly it fits the game that you're describing, in the sense that this music is accessible. The game is a small, contained adventure of going into a cave and you fight monsters, and it's almost silly in a sense. It's not silly, but you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't have a weight, it doesn't have huge stakes or whatever, and the music represents this in the best way possible. What I love is that you're maintaining your thematic material very nicely. You're developing it, reusing it, and even at some point I was like, oh, I've listened to this like 10 minutes ago, and this, because this is truly a fully realized soundtrack, it wins you over just by how carefully it is constructed. And the storytelling is top notch. I entirely felt the arc of the music that is the arc of the story of the game itself. I love the production on this one, this sort of 90-ish digitalness into it. Is maybe just because I'm of this age, but it's just right up my alley. So this is an entry that is like done. You can release this. You need to find somebody to make this game, and your work is already done. So, you know, just do that. Find somebody and make this game, and release the soundtrack. It's perfect. So congratulations, loved every minute of it. And by the way, you mentioned in your notes that we should brace ourselves because it's long, and it didn't feel long. It's actually the 19th out of 20 soundtracks that I listened to, and I was tired, and I was scared of the runtime, and it was a breeze. So huge props on that. Congratulations on the whole thing.
I'm a chemist. I'm in the lab ready to explore.
So this is for Halcyon by Nova, and this is one of the entries that sort of won me over, so to speak, in the sense that I started listening and I was like, this is very intriguing. I think the best word I can find to describe it is intriguing, because the production and the style is so fresh. I felt constantly like, that's an interesting surprise. What I'm listening to is very, very well balanced. There's a lot of things going on and everything has its individual role. I think that the production is orchestrated in a way, and what I mean is that there's very deliberate choice in what happens at which time and where does it live, what frequency space it occupies and why. And that to me is just a sign of someone who has firm grasp of their material and their the type of music that they're writing. I love the use of the muted trumpet. I think it conveys the mystery of it all, the noir of it all very nicely. And because the type of game that you're describing is something that I would definitely be intrigued even before the music, I would just reading this description would be like, I want to check this out. If I, played a trailer or booted up the game and had this music as a main menu music or something, I would be, this is something cool. And I would be very, very drawn into finding out more and exploring this game. So I think this is job well done for a soundtrack. If you manage this to grab the attention and intrigue, and otherwise, the music is top notch, so just excellent.
This is a voice note for entry number 14 by Thomas Booker Price. I just wanted to record a little bit of praise for what you've done here. I was really taken by how well you were using, as I mentioned in the written review, the sort of Thomas Newman-y style. It's one of those approaches that can easily sort of go awry, can easily sort of become like a mess, but yours didn't. Yours really kept it all together, and really, because of that discipline and because of that success, it really was very emotionally affecting and really, really beautiful. I am very, very impressed at the sounds you were able to make. I'm impressed at the overall production quality, one of the things that can be difficult there is that I know you're always trying to take these really delicate textures and sort of mix them in a way where they are forward in the mix, and that can often become a morass of sound. But here, no, it always feels balanced. It always feels just clear and transparent, which is, I think, the ultimate testament to how well it's done. Is that I always felt like I was in good hands from a production standpoint and from a compositional standpoint. As I mentioned in the written review, your use of triple meter and its very propulsive feel, I thought was really, really well executed. And just overall, I was really taken by this. This is one of my favorite entries this year, so thank you so much for your submission. It was beautiful.
This is for Cold Waves by Evelina. Now, this is one of the soundtracks that truly I was almost surprised by how immersive the sound was, because you started off with this natural soundscape and then suddenly the music comes in, and it's so seamless how this happens that I just found myself, I was listening with headphones on and I was like, wow, I'm in this world now. I'm so deep into this world. And I loved your choice of ambience, you know, like your reverbs and all the sound design that you have. The production is top notch. And I just found this so beautifully made, and I really loved how you have paid attention to the presentation of the soundtrack. So you say that there are 5 compositions here, but you have presented them as one composition flowing into the other, which I find this is very important because, I mean, besides how you would theoretically implement these compositions in the game, which would probably involve some looping or splitting or, you know, doing something in a middleware just so that you have kind of an endless flow, you have chosen to present them as one thing that is a continuous piece with 5 movements essentially. And I think this is very important, and we definitely need to pay attention to this more as composers, how, you know, in theory what I'm listening to here is a released soundtrack, so to speak. So this is a perfect way to present this, and for me this gains huge points. I mean, if the music wasn't there, I wouldn't have chosen it as one of my favorites, but together with the amazing music and this strong sense of storytelling that exists in this particular music for the game that you have described, yeah, together with your presentation is just excellent. So bravo, and yeah, congratulations.
Obnoxious drop on couplet. Got Drachmas, doctors, Watsons, lockets from Morocco, caught from the Bahamas. Got Luxbusters, obnoxious drop on couplet. Not often start for body, but toss it in the deep, and I'll talk and I'll keep it.
Okay, so this is for Ayakashi by Lizard Thing. So this soundtrack, by the end of the first piece, I was truly looking forward to see where this is going, because the first piece I found is such a brilliant way to introduce the player to the world and the scope of both the game and the music, in the sense that you have the refined moments within the piece and the grand gestures, and this really gives you a good idea of, you know, what's going to happen and where are we in this world. I found that your orchestration is beautiful. I was truly blown away on the battle theme by the woodwind solo, which I had to check with your screenshots, because for a moment there I was like, is this a programmed solo? It's like a MIDI, and I was almost relieved to see that you have actually recorded a soprano recorder. Maybe it's sort of like representing a shakuhachi or something, but it doesn't really matter. It's a great sound. The frantic energy that it has and stuff. For me, it carries more energy than the entire ensemble, with like the huge drums or the big string gestures and all that stuff. There's more energy to that little flute than or recorder, whatever, than the entire piece. And then you wrap it up beautifully with the finale, which to me this is such a great, I mean, it's contained, it's 3 pieces, so let's say it's a 3-act soundtrack, but it's so carefully constructed to have a strong, a perfect arc. So we got our introduction to this world, we have our tension with the boss fight, and then we have a release with the finale, and this is excellently done. And finally, huge props for how you handled the material, because you're working within the Japanese idiom, and that is a slippery slope for a lot of composers. It's very dangerous to fall into a lot of cliche and things like that, and even without us knowing can delve into satire sometimes. And this never happened here. I felt very comfortable listening to this. I was like, such a brilliant piece of work. So congratulations.
This voice note is for entry number 3 by William Watson. Just wanted to congratulate you on really beautiful use of aleatoric orchestral textures. I thought that choice to use those was really unique, and it set this apart. I don't know if I've heard a soundtrack that's that takes quite this kind of approach with that, and I thought it really worked and was really beautiful. I thought that the way you described the game that this would go to, I could just see this fitting just perfectly with that. So congratulations on that. Additionally, I just wanted to say that you do a really beautiful job of moving from one idea to the next. So keep that up. That's really hard to do at times, and I think never once when I was listening to your submission did I find myself wondering why we were going from, idea A to idea B. It always just transitioned very naturally from one to the other and made total sense. Of course it's going there, why would it go anywhere else? And I think that's a deceptively difficult thing to do at times. So really wonderful work. Just wanted to congratulate you on a really beautiful submission, and I look forward to hearing more in the future.
So this is for Asphodel Paths by William Watson. William, your soundtrack was one of in fact, the first one that I listened to and immediately was drawn to it. I felt very comfortable listening to it. I'm drawn to this orchestral sound. The fact that you're doing impressionistic compositions, I love that from the very beginning, and I instantly was like, something earth-shattering needs to happen for this not to end up on my top picks. I think that it's a very bold choice to go for full-on impressionism instead of, something more, singable or like loopable, so to speak. I love the game that you're describing, and I do think that your music fits in that. And I would love to see more games in the industry that would provide the space for such music, and I would love to hear your music in such games. I'm sure that you can have a bright future in games if that's something that you want. I love the production, and it's impressive in two ways. I mean, there's the mix that you have produced and the balance of it, and of course this is completely paired and intertwined with your choice of orchestration at any given moment, because we're dealing with orchestral music. But it's also that is very carefully done, very meticulously done using the samples. And to me, this sound that you have produced goes well above and beyond a mock-up, This is something that is ready to be released, and it's on a top level. Releasing the soundtrack anybody would be proud to release such a soundtrack, and any game would be happy to have such a soundtrack at this level of quality, both composition-wise and production-wise. So huge congratulations from me, and looking forward to hearing more of your music.